My landlord said she's evicting me for property damage, and I said, please do it in writing. 2 weeks later, an official eviction notice arrived in the mail. My landlord claimed I owed $8,000 for extensive property damage to the apartment. The list included a cracked bathroom tile, water-stained walls, and broken cabinet hinges. None of it was my fault. The tile was cracked when I moved in. The water stains came from a leak in the unit above mine. The cabinet hinges broke because they were cheap and old. But she had photos dated from last week, and she had an official document with a lawyer's letterhead. I had 30 days to pay, or she'd take me to court. I took photos of everything the next day. I used my phone to document every inch of that apartment, proving the damage existed before I moved in. But when I looked back at my move-in photos from 3 years ago, I realized they were blurry and poorly lit. I'd taken them quickly on my old phone because I was rushing to pick up my daughter from school that day. My landlord filed the court case before I could file my response. The court date arrived in the mail, scheduled for the same week as my daughter's parent-teacher conference, and my double shift at the hospital where I work as a nursing assistant. I requested a different date, but the clerk said no changes were allowed. My smart move of asking for it in writing was starting to feel like a massive mistake. I tried calling my landlord to settle this outside of court. She never answered. I left voicemails explaining that I was a single mom, that my husband had died 2 years ago, that I couldn't afford $8,000. She never called back. Then she started sending her son to inspect the apartment. He'd show up unannounced with a clipboard, taking more photos, making notes. My daughter would hide in her room every time he came. Mommy, why is that man always here? She'd ask. I didn't have a good answer. I hired a lawyer for $500 I didn't have, money I'd been saving for my daughter's school supplies. He looked at my photos and my landlord's official documents and said, her paperwork looks more professional. The judge might believe her dates over yours. He told me to gather any emails or texts proving the damage existed earlier. I searched through everything. My landlord and I had never texted. She always called or left notes on my door. Every piece of evidence I found made my case look weaker while hers looked stronger. I printed bank statements showing I'd paid rent on time for 3 years. I printed my lease agreement showing she was responsible for repairs. I even got a letter from my upstairs neighbor confirming his unit leaked into mine last year. The day before court, my landlord's lawyer sent me a stack of documents, each one more official looking than anything I had. Professional photographs with timestamps, receipts for repairs I'd never seen, a statement from a contractor I'd never met claiming he'd inspected the unit and found tenant-caused damage. I showed up to court with my folder of evidence feeling like I was drowning. That written request had given her all the time she needed to bury me. The judge, an older woman with reading glasses, listened to my landlord's lawyer present his case first. He showed the professional photos, the contractor's statement, the detailed repair estimates. Everything looked official and organized. Then it was my turn. I showed my blurry move-in photos. I explained the leak from upstairs. I showed my rent payment history, proving I'd been a good tenant. I even brought my daughter's school records to prove we'd lived there the whole time. The judge looked at everything I'd brought. She asked me questions about the timeline. She examined my upstairs neighbor's letter. For a moment, I thought she believed me. Then she looked at my landlord's documents again. She looked at mine. She sighed. Ma'am, I understand you're going through a difficult time as a single mother. I can see you're struggling financially, but I can't ignore the quality of documentation the landlord's side has provided. She held up the professional photos. These are time-stamped, taken by a licensed contractor, and clearly show significant damage. But Your Honor, that damage was already— Ma'am, she cut me off. I think you're making this bigger than it is because you're stressed and looking for someone to blame for your situation. The evidence clearly favors the landlord. You owe $8,000 plus court fees of $1,200. You have 30 days to pay. I felt my chest collapse. Outside the courthouse, my upstairs neighbor was waiting. I'm so sorry, he said. The landlord's son came to my door last night, offered me $2,000 to recant my letter. I stared at him. Then I pulled out my phone and hit record. Say that again. Everything. I'm not letting her get away with this. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't done fighting. Not even close. Full story linked below.